Health Alchemy this morning. Oh, there's Isabel. Good. We're going to go over some of the newer material, and then we can have a more discussion about it. So if you're watching this on the video on demand, this is going to be, we're going to go to a screen share, and there'll be a number of different classes. And my spiritual teacher said that Jesus never really had a coherent teaching because it was always contextualized. And I kind of feel the same way. The coherent teaching is very difficult at times because there's so many aspects and context to health. So we're going to go back to our famous dashboard here. So we've been farting around with this yin yang, the 5 element, the chemistry, the nutrition assessment, and now we're adding in the 4 foundations. We really haven't given the nutrition assessment much time. So I'm going to go through that a little more right now, have a discussion, and then I'll add in, how does this all fit in with the 4 foundations? Because we started with that. It was actually our very first class, I think. Remember the intro module, the 4 foundations right there. That was our 7th class in the intro module almost 2 years ago at this point. So let's start with, let's go into the nutrition assessment because we didn't really go over that much. So this class will be a little bit of a tie together. And we'll be adding on, of course, as the material improves. So first off, when we say nutrition assessment, what does the word assess mean? Open discussion at this point.
To gather facts?
Yeah, and to look at the facts in order to have an initial idea of what is going on.
Yeah, to me, I love the game Clue, the board game Clue as a kid. So it's kind of like you've got assessment means you're gathering clues, you're gathering facts and information, you're even gathering your internal hits, right? Because that's information too. I've got XYZ in front of me, and I've got this plant that keeps coming up, rosemary. I better write that down because it keeps coming up. Maybe there's a reason, maybe there's some science behind that. So then what I was taught with the standard process people was really where I became a full-fledged clinical nutritionist 12 years ago, was once you have all your clues together, your detective work done, then you present a report of your findings. And that's where the assessment is finished, right? So we're gathering a nutrition assessment. My wet dream was always to have, how do I assess vitamin A status, vitamin C status, vitamin D status, right? What are the assessment tools, if any, to assess each of the vitamins? Do you think blood work's a good way to test for vitamin status?
No.
Why?
First and foremost, it's not specifically measuring vitamin status. It's a snapshot and only one of the many pieces of information that isn't good for vitamins as far as I've ever seen.
Good. Plus, remember from about 80, 90, 100 years ago when they were figuring out what vitamins were, that they were originally called vital amines, like vital amino acids, vital amines. And they were referred to in more metaphorical terms because they didn't quite have the science down yet. But what the industry figured out was that you could take this hormone-like substance, because that is what they were called 90 years ago. Vitamins were called hormone-like substances. What the fuck? So that implies there's a lot more going on than ascorbic acid or tocopherol or carotene or retinol or whatever, 25 hydroxy vitamin D. There's a lot more going on than that. And in that process of labeling vitamins, they turned vitamins into chemicals. That's why it'll never work, because they'll assess for the chemical, right? You could do a vitamin A test, a retinol test, and that's a pretty good test, actually. Yeah. You could do a ascorbic acid assay.
It's for you.
You can do a B12 assay. You know, you can do these assays to check the levels of the chemistry in the blood, but is that in fact giving you your vitamin status? I don't think so.
Mhm.
No, and it doesn't tell anything about absorption, right? You may, I mean, that is what I'm always astonished by, the amounts of supplements that people are taking these days. And there is really no thought about, is it actually being absorbed?
Mm.
Right. And so what we're looking at, because the very premise of nutrition has been skewed, and that is nutrition is not chemistry. Chemistry is part of the nutrition process. And so the single best book I've been able to identify for vitamin status is Dr. Roy Lee's Vitamin News. It's called The Vitamin News. It's a collection of his vitamin articles over a decade. And in that book, The Vitamin News, I think I have it right here. Let me grab it. Yeah, I do. It's right here. It's always pretty much nearby me.
Because vitamins aren't chemistry, right? So they're not chemicals, right?
Chemicals are part of the vitamin process, just like a photograph of you running a race is part of you running the race, but the
Mhm.
photograph is not you running the race.
Gotcha.
So the chemical is not what the vitamin is, but the chemistry is part of the vitamin process. This is the book here. Let me go off screen share. I think some of you have already been recommended this, but if you're watching the video, buy this book while you have a chance. This is Dr. Roy Lee here.
Mhm.
Mm.
SeleneRiverPress.com and ifnh.org. This
And they have a sale going on right now.
oh, they do.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I can't I have every Roy Lee's book I could get. I've got everything that he possibly wrote, because the genius of this man and his suppression by the US government tells me, you know, the fact he was suppressed as hard as he was and his company was shut down twice tells me this guy's pure gold.
Mhm.
Remember, whenever the government agencies recommend something, you do the opposite.
Of course, yeah.
So each vitamin has long chapters in here, and they'll tell you, here's the signs of deficiency, and here's the signs of excess. So when you see a lot of deficient, what my wet dream is to have a database where if somebody fills out an intake form based on each vitamin, kind of like the system survey form, and then it tells you like where your deficiencies and excesses are by filling out the questionnaire.
Mm.
And that would be a lot more accurate than a blood test, in my opinion.
Mm.
You all get that?
Yeah.
Oh, say that last part again. You said
I would have them fill out a questionnaire with like the system survey form where you bubble in like, hey, how bad is your symptom here? You know, a minor, a major, or a severe, you know, and is it monthly? Symptoms are minor when they're monthly or less. They're getting more urgent when they're weekly, and when they're daily, it's severe. That's what the system survey is based on, is those three parameters. A symptom that's monthly, start paying attention to it. And then when they increase in frequency, you've degenerated down to another level.
So Greg,
Yes.
how do we now assess the vitamin status of people?
Great question.
I have looked at no less than 50 to 60 to 70 different, you know, vitamin assessment forms over the years, and they're too limited. That's why I don't use them. So what's currently available, I found lacking. But we can make it a, you know, if you wanted to make a project, I'm sure somebody out there must have a decent vitamin assessment form, right?
You'd think that Royal Lee would have done one.
Well, see, his thing was always context, like mine. So yeah, it's all in Vitamin News. You just gotta know, it's the oral tradition. So once you learn, like, so each of you should have vitamin A, a keyword for vitamin A, and a keyword for different B vitamins, and a keyword for C. So you remember easily. Isabel.
Wouldn't the chronometer app provide the vitamins?
Yes, but remember, chronometers based on USDA data.
Mm.
And so they're assuming there's a certain amount of each nutrient in each food, but it's still nevertheless the best guess based on USDA data and not entirely correct. But yes, thank you for that. Chronometer is a program.
Well, so the way I see it is at least we have the minimum, right? Because FDA is the minimum. So we have at least the minimum of what they are supposed to have. And then we can compare it to whatever Royal Lee is stating in his book.
Mm.
Um,
And remember, Royal Lee, what we talk about vitamins also, Royal Lee threw out a bunch of foods that he called them non-functional nutrition foods. Spinach was one of them. Acerola berry, the acerola, the high ascorbic acid, the acerola, Royal Lee threw that out. Now, if a guy throws it like him, throws this out, I'm going to make notice of that. Like, so anything with acerola in it, in my world, is suspect because Lee threw it out. Anything with spinach in it is suspect. Why? Because Lee threw it out.
is that acerola? Is that the aronia berry? Or
Yep.
what is it?
The
Okay.
acerola berry or cherry, whatever it's called. Health Force Nutritionals has their truly natural vitamin C. It's pretty much 100% acerola. And Royal Lee threw it out because it's very high in ascorbic acid, part of the C complex, and very weak in everything else that matters.
Hmm.
That was
Okay, that's interesting because here, that is what I found is it's more native than elderberry flowers. So I was actually tempted to grow it, but okay, all right.
I'm not
Wow.
saying it doesn't have value. Like if you want a natural source of ascorbic acid, so the action of ascorbic acid is a refrigerant. It lowers heat. It chelates copper. That's its big danger, according to
Mhm.
ascorbic acid. So something that's rich in ascorbic acid. See, Lee didn't know that, but Lee knew enough to know that this thing's way too far over here, and we need something more in the center.
Mhm.
It has the bioflavonoids and the copper and the tyrosinase and the other parts of the C complex.
Interesting. Okay.
And then spinach, he called it a non-functional food because he would test various greens and he would test the hemoglobin and iron content of the blood afterwards. And spinach, he never got a result. But with beet greens, he did get a result.
Mm.
Mhm. So it's not the oxalates then, because beet tops and spinach both have oxalates or oxalates or however you pronounce that.
Mhm.
Correct. So what Lee was doing is what we call empirical evidence. He would give something, measure before and after, and that's the true science for me.
So
You
basically,
see the
spinach
same
is-
result when you give something over and over again. You can honestly say, well, it's not double blind, but we give X and Y happens 55 times. It's like, hey, you could draw a conclusion there.
Mhm.
so spinach is basically useless.
The form that they're growing, the New Zealand spinach and the native spinaches and the heirloom spinaches, see, chard and beet and spinach and lamb's quarters, to Monica's love, they're all in the Chenopodiaceae or goosefoot family. They like growing down by the water in the,
Right.
and so Lee discovered, like, they have chard in their magnesium product. It's just Swiss chard and buckwheat leaf juice, and that's what they call Easy Mag, their whole food magnesium. So yes, it goes beyond oxalic acid. It goes to, Lee was just seeking out, where can I get the best functional result?
Mm.
And he was channeling. I mean, to be blunt, he even said it, I'm channeling, I'm using divine providence, and then I'm going backwards with the science to figure out why I got the result.
Mm.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the spinaches that you mentioned, I think they are all the versions that you mentioned, they are all annuals. Does it make them, because there is, I think, 1 or 2 forms of spinach that are per annual. Does it make a difference or no?
I don't know, but I have the New Zealand, no, wait. I have the spinach out here that's the perennial that Ellie gave me.
Mhm.
Monica, if you want some, it's perfect time to dig out a chunk. I got this huge pot of it.
Mm.
Just dig out a chunk. Paul Galen put it on his property and it took over the whole fucking hillside.
Holy cow.
Yeah, he loves it because it's holding up the hillside. Part of it. And that's where it grows. It grows along the cliffs. There's a bunch of New Zealand spinach growing along the cliffs at Manresa and Monterey Bay Academy and La Selva. And so it one of its jobs, I believe, is to hold up the cliff, the topsoil on the cliff.
And that's an heirloom, so it actually has some value and would royally say so, or what do you think?
The dude out at one of the farms from Aromas, he's the Kiwi guy. I met him a decade ago. He grows it and sells it at the farmer's market on Wednesdays. He really loves it. He doesn't look that great, but his wife has no thyroid, and she's not been taking thyroid meds for years after her thyroid was removed and just eating naturally off the earth. Very impressive.
So I don't know if that is relevant, but when I was a child, we were always told that when you eat spinach, you need eggs and potatoes, and that makes it complete.
Oh,
I'd go for that. Absolutely.
wow.
So in Chinese medicine, the action of spinach is sliding. It's literally called sliding energy. And it does that sliding energy when you cook it. It's very, right? It's things just, so the spinach allows the constipating potatoes and meat or whatever to slide through.
Mm.
Laugh out loud.
Mhm. Interesting.
Right. Sliding energy. So the oxalates, they have dissolving energy. Why would they say that? Why are the oxalates used to bind and dissolve?
Because it's a bitter, and a bitter is constrictive, and it works downward.
That's good. What is a kidney stone? It's oxalic acid bound to. Oxalic acid is like a male and a female. The male's drawn to the female ideally. And so you have these codependent molecules. Oxalic acid's always seeking what? What's a kidney stone? That's what it seeks.
Calcium?
Calcium oxalate.
Ah.
So we're going to lead into chemistry in a month or two here. So here's the excuse me. I'm going to do a whiteboard. So you guys understand when you see the word ATE, this is a really important distinction that'll help you get ahead of the game. So you have oxalic acid, right? And then you have, let's say we'll pick calcium. And equals, these are buddies. They like to bind. But oxalic acid, so there's a few steps. The first step of oxalic acid is your gut flora has to break it down. Or it binds to minerals and other items. So calcium oxalate equals calcium, which is a positive charge, bound to oxalic acid, which is a negative charge. They bind together, they can become a neutral charge. And that's what is the stone, is that oxalic acid bound to the calcium. But that shouldn't happen. I used to be the guy that would eat beets. I'm not kidding. 30 years ago, when I ate beets, I would see them in my stool 2 hours later. When I ate beets, chard, spinach, any of it, it would just slide right through me and end up in my stool. 2 hours later, I mean, that's like 50 feet of tube in 2 hours. Your small intestine is like 30 feet long, your large intestine is like 12 feet long, and your stomach's like a foot long or two. And then you're looking at how the fuck, and then fast forward 20 years after doing I got your question, Isabel, doing intestinal work and getting my flora straightened out, that stopped happening. So I drew a conclusion like Lee would have. I kept checking with my gut. I said, are you gut bugs now breaking down the oxalic acid for me? And I got a yes.
Oh.
So your gut flora is supposed to take care of the oxalates, and if it doesn't, then you talk about the thyroid inhibitors and the oxalic acids, but your gut flora is supposed to take care of that stuff. And I don't know that too many people are talking about that.
Mhm. Okay.
Question, Isabel.
Yes, so where you wrote oxalic acid, number 1. So oxalic acid is not broken down already with the saliva in the mouth. It needs to be broken down in the gut flora. That's my first question. And the second question is, when you say or it binds, does that mean, so if it is not broken down, it binds to the minerals?
Yes,
Or so this or is really a that if it isn't broken down, then it binds.
that's sort of, yeah, it's
Okay.
like in programming, there's an if then function.
Okay, so just to be clear, so
It's an if then function. So that, if I was writing programming, I would write if it's not broken down, then do this, which is binding it up to things.
okay, and the saliva doesn't break it down at all. It needs to go into the
don't know
hydrochloric acid.
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
I believe that because people have trouble with it all the way through the GI tract, I don't believe it gets broken down much at all in people.
The reason I'm wondering is because I disliked eating spinach as a child because you had this funny feeling on your teeth
Yes, I know.
after eating. So that's why I wonder if
Well, I'm a personal fan of you can never go wrong by chewing well. The only exception is there are some people looking at meat and you don't want to over chew meat, they say, because you want it less chewed so it sits in your stomach longer. I could see that argument because you want meat and all that acid, break down the protein chains. I don't know I still reflexively chew meat pretty well.
And is that true for meat, no matter if it is cooked or raw?
You definitely, when it's raw, it's going to sit in that top stomach. Remember, we have sort of two stomachs, and that top raw food stomach, when something's raw, it's just going to sit in there. And so I did experiment last night. I had raw salmon in a salad, and then I had some cooked protein with some soup after that. And it was interesting because it sort of, I was like, well, I wonder how that's going to work. I have raw in there, and then I'm adding cooked on top of it. So what's going to happen, And I was pretty satisfied. I have to admit, I only had a little bit of gas, but I did have some gas later in the night. So I remember what the old study is in enzyme nutrition in the 50s and 60s. If you do 51% raw or more, then you don't have the white blood cell reaction. So I watched Amber Weiss, one of my favorite MD type people, give a presentation last night on autoimmunity, and she did pretty good. She tried talking about the protomorphogens. She didn't have enough skill there, but in my opinion, but what Amber is, she's going down the same path of the natural and not choosing, unproven chemistry. And so when you don't get enough, what she described as auto antibodies in her talk, Royal Lee called natural tissue antibodies. And a natural tissue antibody is a natural teardown factor that says, hey, stop healing the wound. Hey, stop growing the bone. You have to have that in place. Otherwise, you become a giant. That's what they call, those giant people. They have too much growth hormone and they don't have enough teardown hormone, so they keep growing. So that's what Lee described. This isn't pathology. A natural tissue antibody is natural. When it becomes autoimmune is when you keep provoking the gut. You have to have a genetic predisposition, which I would just say a predisposition in consciousness. You have to have a trigger, and you have to have leaky gut. Those are 3 conditions for an autoimmune thing. It's not a mystery, but to me, the predecessor of everything, I don't give a fuck about genetics, is if you're not eating well and you've got leaky gut and you're continually every meal, your white blood cell count is elevating because of too much cooked food, then do you see what I'm talking about? It's like calling the cops every 3 hours.
Mm.
Find the cops are going to turn on you and say, fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the immune system does. It finally like, okay, I've been provoked over 20 years, 3 meals a day. Now I'm going to start attacking you because you are the problem. Your chooser is the problem.
Mm.
Is that understandable?
Mm-hmm.
It's really important to get like, there's a dance for each of us, the amount of raw and the amount of cooked, the amount of fiber and the amount of non-fiber. And that's what we're teaching people is, you know, certain amount of protein, carbs, fat, raw, cooked, fiber, non-fiber. That's the dance. Types of fibers, types of proteins. You know, you could literally spend 2 or 3 months just investigating all that, right? What happens when I eat a lot of fat? Wow. What happens when I eat a lot of carbs? Wow. What happens when I eat this carb versus this carb? What happens when I eat carbs in the evening versus the morning? See, that's the detective work. That's the clue gathering.
And it probably depends on the season too,
And
right?
the season is another factor.
Or the climate.
And the climate and your goals. If you want to be a world champion heavyweight boxer, much different diet than if you want to sit and meditate all day. Way different diet. Or if you want to, you know, if a guy wants to, if a couple wants to have a lot of lovemaking and activity like that, it'll be a different diet than if they're just having a platonic relationship in terms of their marriage or whatnot. Because there are couples out there that don't really have much of that physical part. So they'll have a different nutrition than the couple that does want the physical, even. All right, back to the, oh, Monica has to go. I'm going to pause. All right, we're back. So Isabel had a question about, so if we're talking about the nervous system needs. So the system survey form is kind of like the bubble form is the single best nutritional evaluation document because of how it can be interpreted. And so on that form, the question is, the sympathetic nervous system is fire and the parasympathetic is the log, okay? And what's phosphorus? It's fire.
Mhm,
Phosphorescence is what makes the firefly glow.
mhm.
Phosphorescence makes the ocean glow. So if you have, let me go to another document to kind of support this, okay,
Yeah,
Isabel?
because then if you have already a lot of points in the sympathetic category, why would you add more fire onto it by taking phosphate liquid?
Right. So the point is that the symptoms are because you've burned up your phosphorus.
Ah, okay. So you need to replenish the fire that you burnt.
I'm going to give you an example from, let's go. Okay. So I'm going to type in the adjuvant therapies, which is one of the standard process doctors. And we're going to look for sympathetic dominance. This is how I used to research stuff when I was learning standard process. Like, let me just pull out what the experts are talking about here. So it should be in here as sympathetic dominance. Not, oh, okay.
Maybe under nervous.
Yeah, so that's where we have to be a good indexers. Nephritis, muscle fatigue, so no nerves. Let's see what else we got. We got,
Do they have a find function? Can you look for sympathetic?
Control F. I'm gonna just put in fight or flight. I'll just put it in fight. Oh, yeah. That didn't work. Control F, sympathetic. Sympathetic food guide, see appendix. I think we have that actually available. Sympathetic
Mhm.
Good guy, there it is. Very good.
Do we have
They
access
don't,
to?
on the online version of this form, they don't give you these extras. So I'm just gonna put the disclaimer out there. I am showing copyrighted material from the book that was not included in the online PDF. So I just need to say that this does not include what I'm showing you here. So just so I don't get myself in trouble. So when you're in sympathetic dominance, Isabel, your digestion is slowed down. That's the byproduct of being in fight or flight, right?
Mhm,
What they're
mhm,
saying here is you're oxidizing food slowly because you don't have as much juice.
mhm.
So they're saying that if you have sympathetic dominance, then you want to focus on a little more carbohydrates, lighter proteins, and less fat from the over here on the right. So what they're saying is that phosphorus for that person then will speed them up. And what I was trying to show you on this other one, maybe I can finish it now. Yes. So acne, sympathetic food guide. Oh, look at that. The skin's related to fight or flight. That's what they're saying here. Let's go to the next one. Allergies, sympathetic food guide. Oh, interesting. Lou Gehrig's disease, sympathetic food guide. Parasympathetic food guide. We'll look at that in a minute. There's a lot here. Okay, so
So with cystic acne, like I had and still get from time to time, but started in the ninth grade, that basically is sympathetic dominant, is the dominant energy or gut, obviously gut related issues is what I.
well, you see how much he has his food guides in here, right?
Mhm.
Autoimmune condition,
Mhm.
bacterial infection. But what I'm going to look for now is I'm going to just look for nausea. Nausea is a sign of nervous system problems.
Greg, do we have access to this sympathetic food guide?
I don't know where the fuck it is. Let me find it again. There it is. No. Can't find it now. There it is. I just need to see where it is. Move to. Uh-oh. Wow. I don't know where does it live? Let's see. Let's go to details. You have access, Isabel. I'm just trying to figure out where the hell it is. Diet types.
Mhm.
So it's in the folder diet types. I'll get you a clue on that. Diet types. There it is. So that lives in the filing cabinet by topic, Isabel.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, see, low stress diet,
It's
balance
interesting.
nerve guide, parasympathetic, sympathetic, spike protein diet.
It's interesting that acne came up because, acne is the nerves up on the outer part of the body,
Right.
Which is also the first detox pathway.
First?
That's the last resort, isn't it? Because you're constipated and it has to come out through the skin.
Yeah.
But I thought one of the first, I would say it was one of the first because isn't the body's mechanism to sweat it out? So it's one of the first before it manifests any deeper.
Sweating, breathing. The skin has a natural function to breathe, and then it has an unnatural function where it's eczema, psoriasis, and eruptions. That means that one of the normal pathways has been bypassed, and that's where the skin, the brain, and the nerves have a connection. So the acne is the skin, brain, nerve connection, in my opinion.
Okay.
With certain deficiencies, of course. So then back to our little handy dandy helper document. Nausea. Let me see it before me.
Down below. No?
Nausea? What the hell?
How else could they describe it? Vomiting, maybe?
Oh, there you go. Yeah, vomiting. Okay, good idea.
Nope.
No.
Hmm.
Boy, I think
Dizziness?
it's another manifestation of nausea. Interesting. Let's move up here for a second. It might be. It's not cardiovascular. Children.
Digestion, maybe under digestion.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Belching, bloating, Crohn's.
mm-mm.
How weird. Yeah, that's very strange. Let's type in Control F. Nausea. Results from systemic toxicity characterized by nausea. Look at that. Binding agent, stomach acid, beets, liver support, drainage support, and cramp support. That's interesting.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's it. That's the only nausea. So I do have another document here on this one ended up not being helpful. I was hoping it would show, but we could try another document. And that one is called it's a royally book that I digitized part of it. I'm going to pull it out. It's called the Therapeutic Food Manual.
Mhm.
So I'm just going to type in nausea. Because I've done a lot of self-study on nausea. You know, it's interesting there. It doesn't seem to be a system survey form key. Headache and migraine. Okay, so I'm going to go into my therapeutic food manual. I'm pretty sure I have that Royal Lee has an old nausea. And then I'm going to photograph it and put it in here. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so nausea. You need a phosphorus metabolizer. So they used to recommend super EFF and niacinamide B6 for nausea. And then it says food metabolizes calcium carbonate, lowers blood viscosity. Physiologic considerations of nausea. Altered motor nerve activity for any reason tends to produce nausea. Altered motor nerve activity for any reason tends to produce nausea, is Lee's quote, in its many forms, and vomiting. Nervousness, anxiety, tension, fear, shock, and depression all tend to bring on symptoms of nausea, which in most cases are quickly relieved by 10 to 30 drops of phosphood liquid in a half a glass of water. I will attest to that. I have a cancer patient that's been with me 15 years, and she does the dropper right out of the bottle in her mouth because she likes the sour acid of it. I told you she's dissolving her teeth, but please dilute it in water. You're going to dissolve your freaking teeth, but whatever. And then at the bottom, he has what's called coordination suggestions. And so he has 15 different things: sweat gland activity, salivary disorders, potassium and phosphorus metabolism, nightmares, nervous strain, indigestion, headaches, dysphagia, which is swallowing, delirium, dizziness, brain dysfunction, acidosis, alkalosis, pH, and autonomic imbalance all accompany nausea in Royal Lee's world. Wow, that's a lot, right?
Mhm.
So what he's saying then is that, yeah, back to that original, is that if you want to use a nutrient that if you're having nausea, or we could actually go to the system survey form very briefly here. Electronic. There we go. Well, we'll just go to mine. But group 1 is sympathetic. So if you have the symptoms, Isabel, then it means that you're in autonomic imbalance. And rarely do you see all group 1 or all group 2.
Mhm.
But I do have a recent case. So see, Sarah popped up here. Where'd she go?
Right on top.
Sarah Jensen. It doesn't look very good though, because she cut and pasted it somehow into a Word document. I'm like, wow, you're really creative, Sarah. I've never seen anybody do this way of doing it. So right here is group 1. I know it might be hard to read. I'll blow it up a little bigger. So what she did was she somehow, I'm like, how the fuck did you do that? But notice she has 3, 4, 5, 6 points in group 1, right? Did I get all that? And only 1, 2, 3, 4. So you see how she has a little bit more unsympathetic than parasympathetic, and she has the signs of well, I did get her permission to talk about it. So client overview. We'll go into this next week, but this is a good clarifying point here. So this is if you're watching this video on demand, potential client, you cannot bring this information outside of this group. So disclaimer there. So these are her symptoms: chronic fatigue, leaky gut, depression, acne. Hey, there's that acne thing, you guys. Acne and anxiety. This woman is injected.
Just from that, Craig?
No.
No, but just from the 5 points, from the main 5 points, that looks a lot like nerves, like anxiety, depression.
Well,
I mean,
where we're going to end up is on her system survey evaluation form on the foundations. But so most of these are chronic. See, 7 years. The injection that she got did not report. I put it in the notes here. She did not report aggravation of symptoms post-injection. Good. That's good for her. So in your case, it's a little bit of every foundation is involved in this case. And so medication, she's on an antidepressant and a colitis Lialda. So the medication's backing up every day. You can see that with the yellow orange in the eyes. Chest pressure is a problem for her. That's obvious. When you have a plum pit in the throat, like a lump in the throat, and chest pressure, that's too much sympathetic dominance, too long. Which we can go back to the form. I guess I got off the form, darn it. She did an enema with Molly. That wasn't smart 20 years ago. She feels tired when she wakes up. So this is chronic, overdoing it, not enough nourishment, right? Classic mother with 2 kids where the dad's not stepping up. The antidepressants are needed as your gut makes serotonin. See, her leaky ulcerative colitis gut is causing the bad mood because your gut is responsible for serotonin production.
well, what about her vitamins? Like, is she, what's her nutritional status? Is she
Crap.
lacking vitamin B?
Crap status. she's one of those like on the surface healthy people, but obviously wasn't and kind of figured that out. But what I was going to was she has all the signs of sympathetic fight or flight excess. Her pulse is short. She eats rushed. You don't want to eat rushed ever, let alone every day.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that the lady that was on the call last time?
Yes. And
So
she was so
her-
impressed. She did initial intake.
So her eyes, what struck me about her was her eyes were very big for her face, I had in my mind thyroid when I saw her.
The big eyes are hyperthyroid. So very quickly, it's worth looking at. So I did my interpretation of this on went, shut up. I got enough resources. Okay. And my computer's freaking out. It didn't like all those buttons. Okay, there's one. So there you go, Isabel. Overall,
Like, look at the eye in itself. It's almost round, right? The eye, not the iris, but the eye as itself. I mean, when my first impression of her was her eyes are, I mean, they were a big part of her face and they were almost round.
you go there. Yeah, I had a field day doing her. A lot of stuff. See, that's the nerve fray area. If you look up and a little bit on the lateral side of the 12 o'clock line on each eye, that's the nerve fray area. And the flash kind of ruined. See, the flash made it look wider than it is here, but see, the iris is showing the negative effect of what she's been going through. Yeah, so if you want to get further into this, Isabel, I can show you from the iodine, the iodine webinar shows you the hypo versus the hyperthyroid eyes. And that's worth showing you now. Again, if you're watching this on video on demand, this is private information. So there's signs of hypothyroid. So skin that tears easily is hyperthyroid, thick and dry skin is hypo. So let's go to the eye. So there's what a hypothyroid looks like. Hypothyroid child, cretinism, goiter. Notice the sagging under the eyes there. Notice the big round swollen person. He's got the man boobs even. That's called how do you pronounce that? Myxedema. So one of your tests for iodine status and whatnot is see the basal barn. So that's actually for iodine, take your temperature in the morning, record temperature. 97.6 was the minimum. So when you wake up, that should be your temperature when you wake up. It should be lower than 98.6. Okay. So a quick way to check is just check your temperature in the morning and paint iodine. One of my clients that Isabel knows, she just told me the other day on an email that she does Lugol's iodine. She paints it around her breast at night. And that way the breast absorbs it and some of it obviously evaporates, but that's her means of getting iodine in her body. There's the protocol for low thyroid. See, there's the protomorphogen. I'm getting to your question, Isabel. There's the iodine and there's vitamin F, see? And then thyroid complex is a set of herbs. There you go.
Yeah,
See, there's the
yeah,
hyperthyroid
see?
eyes right there.
Yeah, that's what that is what her eyes look like when like the neck looked like that and the eyes looked like that. Her eyes and her neck were
And then look, bulging eyes, see? Bulging eyes, hyperthyroid. You could also have a goiter. And there's some more of those eyes. Look at that one. Woo! that one on the bottom and the left there. When you see these people, your first thought should be, oh my God, they're iodine deficient.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, they're iodine deficient. So look at that. Hyperthyroid, give iodine. These fucking doctors are retarded.
Mm-hmm.
I've used this protocol and rescued at least 3 or 4 people from graves quite successfully, where they would have gone medically, they would have gotten their thyroid removed and radioactive iodine treatment, and they would have had a shitty quality of life the rest of their life. But fortunately, they found Craigie.
Mm-hmm.
So vitamin C, iodine, liver support is Antronex, and thyroid protomorphogen. That's basically, and there's a classic Graves case there.
So
And
our friend who moved away, that is what she has? The friend who moved to down south,
Okay,
is that what she had? No, that's my question. She had a thyroid issue too, right? Does she have Graves?
I don't know which one you're talking about. The one who
Teresa?
went down south? I don't.
Teresa?
Oh, yes. Teresa's started a protocol with me, and I just heard on Thanksgiving that she's not better yet, and she hasn't reached out. She was in this container. She's in love with this man. Teresa needs to, some of us need to reach out to her, because she has not addressed this with me. She tried having one appointment and hasn't followed up in a year. You know, it's been quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little mad at Teresa for not taking care of herself and going to somebody that could help her. And apparently she's not better, and she could have been better quite easily by now.
Mm-hmm. But what my question, I didn't mean to irritate you, but my question was, so she went from a hyperthyroid condition, you know, with big eyes, to Graves. Is that correct?
Graves is a hyperthyroid condition.
Oh, it's just the extreme form of hyperthyroid.
Yeah.
I see.
Oh,
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah.
So she had a hyperthyroid, and now her immune system is attacking the thyroid because there was too much like
Well,
what you said initially in the class is that if you beat on one organ all the time, that eventually the immune system will attack that organ. Is that what you said initially?
yeah, and there's a little bit more to it, so I have to go into the complication now. I wasn't planning on it, but because you asked, no, I need to explain this to you. Why is the body attacking the thyroid? It's more complicated than that. Like, why specifically the thyroid? Why not the pancreas? Why not the nerves? Why not the bones? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because it's weak already, and so it sacrifices the weak organ.
Well, let's clear this. I saved it. I'm going to show you something. So this is it's going to be a basic Craigie drawing. I'll apologize ahead of time for my lack of artistry. So here's your normal cell, okay? And we'll just call it a thyroid, so we'll put a T there. And then, so then you've got these immune cells cruising around like Pac-Man. Again, forgive my horrendous drawing. There's your Pac-Man cruising around. And why is the immune system around? We all think we know why, but the main reason our immune system is around is to search for lyzed DNA.
Well, what kind of a DNA?
If your thyroid cells aren't getting the nourishment they need, then they might be the weak link, and then this DNA lyses out. This guy over here spots that DNA and goes, oh, fuck, there's thyroid blueprint instructions floating around in the body. We don't want to have that end up in my testicles or my armpit or my eyeball. So I better go back to the source of this garbage here and trace it back to the garbage can, which is the thyroid. And so it's tracing the trail of garbage back to the organ that has the most problem. And what the protomorphogens do is it just distracts the immune system guy over here to eat the protomorphogen and leave the organ alone long enough so you can heal it.
But I didn't understand acoustically what you said. What is that? The DNA, it lies? It
breaks. So let's clear this again, and I'll do it a little more. So you've got this DNA inside the cell, right? And
Yeah.
it's basically the hard drive. It's it's sort of the instructions. It's not the brain. The brain is out here in the membrane of the cell. It's well established now that the brain of the cell is out here, not in there. So then there's these Pac-Men cruising around, and they're like the garbage men. And they're looking for this right here in the middle, the DNA. So if this cell breaks open right here, and then this goes out, and it's cruising around like that, and then this thing's all shriveled up because the cell membrane broke, and that cell now becomes this, and this thing's floating over here. This guy's going to go, oh, fuck. Hey, guys, we need to like get this stuff out of circulation here and eat this up here and get it out because it's causing congestion in the fluid stream. So the reason why these guys are cruising around, because this cell has been damaged, it's been broken open. There could have been a parasite over here eating the cell too and broke it open, and this DNA is cruising around. And that's what endometriosis is. Endometriosis is the uterine DNA has broken out of the uterus, is floating around the endometrium, which is the digestive cavity, the belly, and then you're making uterine cells in the endometrium. That's why the immune system, and it's very painful to have uterus cells being made somewhere else. So endometriosis is this very thing. Endometriosis, osis means syndrome of the endometrium.
So basically the Pac-Mans, they eat everything that is compromised, right? So
they should be.
They should be.
They're like the little garbage trucks cruising around, like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't like, let's eat that up. Oh, I don't like that over there. And the other thing that's not being talked about is these. So you have L-tryptophan. It spins that way. Okay, that's the L. Then you have the D isomer that spins the other way. Those Pac-Men are also cruising around looking for this stuff here. These wrong-handed, improper frequency. This is what synthetics make. Nature only makes this. And when you make something against nature, that's what we're seeing on the planet. This becomes viruses, in my opinion. This is the predecessor, this wrong-handed spin, this inversion. Isn't this a classic inversion? One spinning in the direction of life, one spinning in the direction of death.
I was just about to say L is incarnating, D is excarnating.
Very good. That's nature's trump card. When you go against nature, you end up with these wrong-handed molecules, and that's what the jab, in my opinion, is all about. Putting these wrong-handed frequencies in the body so that you're an antenna for evil. Basically. I don't want to be an antenna for evil. I want to be an antenna for love. All right. So cell membrane health is really important. That's where you get your bioflavonoids, the right fats, the right cholesterol, and the right protein. Those four things got to be in place for healthy cell membranes. All right. I'll save that. I don't know how usable those are, but nevertheless, we'll save them. Back to our, well, if you're watching this recording, you're going to need to have. So the iodine presentation gave us, so that's for iodine. I want to move along back to the survey. So many things here. All right, so we looked at her eyes. Let's click off that. Okay, here we go. She had a big diastolic drop, and her eyes show vascular stress. And on the system survey, she had a lot of group 4. So let's go to the system survey form on the foundation report link.
Is that liver? No. 4 is.
What do you got?
That's sugar. Liver, right? 4 is liver?
Cardiovascular.
Oh, cardiovascular. Okay, sorry.
No, you're right. So see, her majors are
Mhm.
liver, blood
Mhm.
sugar, female only, foundational, and low adrenals, and low thyroid. She's right close to that 100 thing. And then her blood pressure, look at her diastolic, fell from 82 to 66 when she stood up.
Mhm.
There is something going on in her pulmonary circulation that's not good.
Well, we know that the injection is messing up the blood, right?
Right. Now, we can't talk to her about that.
Mhm.
And so next week we have to be very careful in our languaging, because she's not on the call this week. We use the word injection. I did a huge faux pas with this person, talked about she was one of us, and oh yeah, those jab people are screwed. And then I just assumed, and then she said, no, I'm a dental hygienist and I had to get it. Otherwise, you know,
All
and
three? Did she get all three?
I think she just got the one and no booster was what I got out of our conversation.
Mhm.
So that's what I put in the original report of findings. See, that's where you have to take careful notes. Right there is my notes.
Mhm.
No aggravation of symptoms post-injection. So this was all in place before that. And so her thyroid and adrenals means her endocrine system is being taken down. What are the three triads of glucose management? What's your three organs that were involved in glucose management?
Pancreas,
Mhm.
Bakers?
kidneys.
Nope. Well, adrenals
Mm.
and
And
liver.
liver.
Oh, look, we got a liver thing here.
Mhm.
Got an adrenal thing here. Foundational nutrition is basically B vitamin deficiency syndrome. And the female organs need iodine, including the ovaries and the uterus and the thyroid. So see, she has all the signs of what we call endocrine fatigue.
Mhm.
Her thyroid's tired, her heart and her lung circulation's tired. She's been raising these kids with, working as a dental assistant. That's why she's in our circle, because she wants to get out of that after 2 decades. So, and then she eats sugar when she's upset.
Mhm.
Classic case. So
Mm.
then when we go to the read about the system survey form key, I think we had right.
You had it in the presentation.
Right. Thank you.
Um,
Very good. Everything got moved around a little bit here. We don't need the assessment folder anymore. 10, there it is. Okay, thanks. There it is.
to the right. Mhm.
Okay, so this is the shorter version. It's the practitioner key that the public doesn't have a link to this, but it quickly tells you for each grouping what the major nutrients and herbs are that are needed. So see, there it is again. If you have sympathetic dominance, they're saying calm the nervous system down with Nevaton or Kava. Take the minerals to calm everything down, and then take Simplex, which is sympathetic dominant for the female, sympathetic dominant for the male. So I believe you were right, Isabel, because this is the food right here, is Circuplex. So if they have sympathetic dominance, you give parasympathetic nervous system protomorphogen. And this is niacin and protein and phosphorus, basically a Circuplex. And so then see,
So basically, you give the opposite of what they are deficient in.
yeah, and then if you have nausea type symptoms, then you give the phosphorus also. I do both. I take the minerals in the morning, and I have a drink right here that has food in it. And I always feel a little bit more energy when I do the food and less nausea. And then see blood sugar, B vitamins, Drenamines, vitamin C and B's, chromium, and Diaplex has liver, kidney, brain support, endocrine support. Cardiovascular, Again, B vitamins, bioflavonoids, vitamin E, and vitamin A, which is cod liver oil, and EFAs. So you see right here, this little guide, hyperthyroid, main herb is bugleweed. Can't emphasize that enough. With a hyperthyroid condition, bugleweed, do not forget that herb. Very important for hyperthyroid. Low thyroid, give iodine, thyroid complex, vitamin E, vitamin F, trace minerals is manganese, and the protomorphogen. So there's a little bit of iodine here. The brain, what does the brain need? Pituitary support, simplex F&M. Look at that, Vitex for the brain. Men or women, Vitex for the brain. Manganese, the pituitary loves manganese. So this gives you a little bit basic idea. And the other one that gave you the other basic idea was the organ one. Again, back to quickly. This organ one also gives you an idea of what nutrients each organ system needs. See, liver, quite a few. Lungs, quite a few. So that's available. Let's stop for questions here for a minute. Any questions, you guys?
No, I don't have anything at the moment.
Okay. Then I'm going to go through the slideshow on nutrition assessment. So there's a nutrition assessment here. We've looked at the master assessment manual. And so why is there a picture of a bunch of men here? Well, when you got a bunch of men together beating drums, then it's going to be a different nutrition assessment than if the guys are sitting around meditating, right? Or if you have women together beating drums or women together meditating, it'll be slightly different than if men are together drumming, because women have a little bit different nutritional needs than men, especially in activity. I honestly wouldn't be able to, I'm just throwing it out there. I would have to think about that because I know Isabel's probably simmering over there going, well, what are those nutrients? So we could talk about that as a group maybe next week. So that's kind of a back to this clue thing, right? I love these metaphors of the human jigsaw puzzle. So assessment's part of like examining the pieces. So the tongue, what nutrients do we get from the tongue? Like, what does our tongue need? You got a little clue right here, folic acid.
Definitely needs minerals, right?
Well, they're telling you right here, if you have a metallic taste in your mouth, you need iodine.
Yeah.
If you have a bitter taste, you might need some bile salts, which is what? Cholesterol.
And zinc, because very often when you're, when you're sick, then your taste is compromised. So you probably need zinc.
See, graphite or fissured or geographic tongue may be a normal variant or a need for niacin. So right there, the tongue can tell you a couple of things right away, what you need nutritionally.
And niacin is B6?
No, niacin is B3. I think riboflavin and niacin, I get those two, B2, B3. I think niacin's B3 and riboflavin's B2. Urine tests can tell us about protein excess or deficiency. It's Dr. Goodhart who developed a lot of urine tests. So you can test for protein, sugar, blood, immune cells. I forgot what indicates a waste product from constipation, bile, and casts, I believe, of white blood cells. So you can check a lot with your urine, with urine testing. These are the fingernails. So what's a common fingernail problem?
Lines in the fingernails or ridges?
Right, so that's usually adrenals. And we have, from the PowerPoint on assessment, we can go back and just understand, like, the nails need protein. The liver is responsible for the smooth spreading of the tendons and the nails. So in a sense, nail health is liver health. And then the zinc deficiency will show up as little white spots inside the nail bed with little white clouds. So there's different ways to assess the hands nutrition assessment wise. The nails, we have cheat sheets for that. We're not going to go into it now, but I believe
Mhm.
I did. Yeah, see, I do have the link to that right here. So if you click
Mhm.
it in the PowerPoint, then it takes you to this wonderful, it tells you
Mhm. Awesome.
on the right side there. So it's a nice feature.
Where did you click?
Right there on the image.
Oh, okay.
The-
Mhm.
I lost full screen, but this is okay. Calcium cuff test. So you hook a blood pressure cuff up to your calf, the top part of the calf below the knee, and you pump it up to about 180 millibars, as it says here. And if you don't get a cramp, your status is good. I've done about a couple hundred of these tests, and I don't use it as much because it's not a strong indicator of calcium status, but it is helpful. So you should be able to pump that thing up really where your calf is getting squeezed really good. And if it cramps up before the 180, 200 point, then you need to look at your calcium status.
Okay.
But look at evolved calcium status. Uh-oh. Digestive support, hormonal supports, EFAs, and calcium status. So every nutrient, every mineral, every vitamin is involved in calcium status. Uh-oh. Here's a little checklist to prove my point. Cofactors, hormonal, fat metabolism, all involved in calcium metabolism and digestion.
That is so great that you put that in, Craig.
Very important checklist. So the muscle testers, what they do is they'll muscle test for where the calcium metabolism is off. I would rather do it a little more scientifically, personally. See, and then there's even more factors. Vitamin E, B vitamins, magnesium via chlorophyll, trace minerals here, more minerals here, vitamin D, B6, vitamin F. I mean, oh my God.
Mhm.
The digestive system, when we do our digestive check, what does the digestive system need? So if there's pain and inflammation in the digestive system, we know probably at a minimum they're not getting enough vitamin C and protein. And if they have cramps and spasms, then we know they're probably not getting enough minerals, specifically calcium and magnesium. So I think you can click on that one also, and that takes you to. So I've done a good job with the clickers this time.
Mhm.
And there you go. HCl point. Very well done. Standard process document here. So it's telling you, see what you need if these points show painful. Very well done.
Mhm. Awesome.
Oops. You can do a temperature log. So what you do is you take your temperature at different points of the day while you're in bed, 1 to 2 p.m. and kind of closer to bed, and then the average for the 3, and you put them in this chart here. You put A, B, or C, and then you work your way along, see? And you see the chart. So if a woman's bleeding, menstruating women, they can use this chart for fertility, right?
Yeah, I was debating whether to ask that question because I used to do this. And so it's basically the ovulation chart, a thyroid data chart.
It's a hormonal chart. Boy, I really like the digression. I'll just show you what a hormonal chart looks like.
Okay.
On a screen whiteboard. Oh, there's our gook again. Okay, let's clear that bad boy. So let's do our bottom axis. Let's change the color to black. So that'll be day 1 to day 28, right? We'll just say text. So day 1, day 28. Dean, this will be really valuable for you because men, we just don't get it. what women
Mhm.
go through, but this is gonna give you a lot of like, oh my God, respect for women. And then in the middle here is day 14, which is ovulation.
I already do. They have children and they take care of children, so that's that's a major. Oh my God, yeah.
And then this
Yeah.
is
And
bleeding.
you can understand women much better when they go through this.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
So bleeding time is generally day 1 to 5. So what you have here then is there'll be 2 graphs. Red will be, there'll be 3 graphs. Red will be, what to put that as testosterone. So right around the middle point here, draw that. There's a red is testosterone. Oh shit. Come on, guys, I put it in red. Okay. The big surge of testosterone around ovulation, then it drops off. And then estrogen we'll put in orange. So estrogen does kind of this, it's going up because wait, no, it's down, down, down. And then when you stop bleeding, the estrogen kicks in and there's a surge. It's supposed to drop like that. And then progesterone we'll put in blue because it's more of a calming hormone. Progesterone is supposed to stay low, and then after ovulation, it's supposed to go up like that. If you're bleeding, if you're pregnant, then it stays up, right? Progesterone means pro-gestation herb.
Mhm.
Progestation. So if there's no gestation, then it says slough off uterine lining. So right here in the middle, then, there's also a surge of FSH and LH, follicle stimulating hormone, and LH, luteinizing hormone, which we won't go into so much there, but that's what the graph looks like. And so if you have estrogen dominance, see the estrogen doesn't fall, it stays high like this. So when a woman's ovulating then is, there's a surge of testosterone and there's a surge of FSH. So it's a big liver burden is what it is. Now, what was your question, Isabel?
You said that one can measure the basal temperature, says something about thyroid.
So right in here about, so what you have then is you have thyroid involved, but you have the entire endocrine system involved. You have the ovaries and the brain and the adrenals. So the whole HPA axis of the endocrine organs, brain, thyroid, adrenals, and gonads, ovaries or testicles, they're all in a hyper alert right here. And so, yeah, the temperature from day 12 or 13 up to day 17 will generally elevate or should elevate. And so then okay, red flag, my temperature's up. I don't want to get pregnant, so we're going to avoid each other during those times. The mucus changes also during that time. Women are very aware of this, Dean. Like, oh shit, my mucus changed. I mean, are you aware of that, Isabel? Right. Mucus, temperature, and there's one other one. Mucus, temperature, and there's something else that women can watch when they know they're fertile.
Your body your body sensations change.
Your body
I mean,
sensation.
Yeah, you
Some
feel
women,
it. Yeah,
some
you feel it.
women get very horny around here. Some women get very horny in this zone here. And I had a partner that she was mean to me because she didn't want to get pregnant. So when she was ovulating, she would basically be a bitch because she wanted to have sex. So her way of not having sex was to be a bitch. It was very effective.
Yeah.
And so when you say mucus, that's like mucus that they would cough up or something. They notice more
In their
of it?
vagina.
Oh, okay, in the vagina. Okay, gotcha.
I think the fluids get thicker to trap the sperm, right? When you're ovulating. Does the mucus get thicker in the vagina? Yeah, the mucus gets thicker in the vagina when they're ovulating. Because it's trying to catch the sperm. They're trying to catch the right suitor, right? Because the egg's down there going, I don't want that one. I like that guy over there. Let's pick him. A more empowering feminine view versus the fucking pounding away on it. Yes, Isabel.
So that diagram then also helps prove your point in Sarah's system survey form, because the if there is, you said in the middle, and from, you said from day 14 through 17, everything is elevated and goes a little bit havoc. And so her symptoms show that, because it's her uterus, right? And thyroid.
Yeah, the main issues are, the central issue is just like beaten down, yin deficient, not enough nutrition, too much activity. So in her case, it wore down her endocrine system, but her digestive system has been the chronic problem. She's a blood type A with paradoxical Northern European ancestry. She craves fat that she can't digest. This is what I went through. And so I told her, I go, you're an ulcerative colitis case, so you're minimum 2 years. Get over it. If you're not willing to put 2 years in, then you're not going to do well with us. So she knows that, yeah, we got to work with her symptoms. That's what I had shown her, Isabel. Let's see. What I showed her, where it's so overwhelming. I don't know if her report's still up. It is. Okay. Right here. So I showed her, what are the things out of your 5 wishes we can heal quickest? The leaky gut's going to take the longest. The depression and the anxiety can be cured in a day. And the acne can be cured in days or weeks. I was just telling her, like, you know, here's what you can expect. The chronic fatigue could be cured quickly. But based on her wishes, Isabel, that's what I'm going off of, is this is what she wants as her wish, and I'm here to facilitate her wish.
And so you are saying anxiety as the fastest, because through vitamin B's?
Right. If you can get someone, can you imagine if you come in to see us and you're depressed and anxious, you know, but she's already beaten those because now she has our team for support. Versus she had 2 kids and a husband that was constantly, as you understand, Isabel, that are constantly pulling at her, because the husband is he's sort of there, but she, you know, I can only say so much on the recording.
Okay.
So she's taking on too much, like most women do. So yeah, we want to get her attention. That's how you want to get their attention within a few days to a few weeks. If you don't get their attention, they're going to move on to somebody else. So I said, we're going to get your attention by helping your depression and your anxiety first. And how are we going to do that? Well, look at her list of, first one, do not eat in a rushed way. That's free, doesn't require any money. And then, you know, nuts and nightshades, and she likes beans, but she doesn't soak them. So I'm like, yeah, okay, you're going to have to soak your beans. She likes bread and ground flour foods, wheat. So, okay, you got to stop that. She eats fast food for the kids every once a month or so. And I say, you got to stop that. No more fast food. She loves coffee every day. You're a fucking gut case. I told her, go, coffee is catabolic. You're a dental assistant. You understand catabolic and anabolic. Why are you putting something in catabolic when your gut lining can't renew anyway? Oh my God. And then, okay, stop all that. And then, okay, we need you to do protein every meal. Make raw butter part of your daily routine. More raw veggies. The colitis diet is raw vegetables. The modern colitis diet is no fiber. It's fucking bullshit. You eat raw vegetables and you chew the fuck out of them. That's how you cure colitis. More water and liquid. She only drinks 40 ounces of water a day. So she has a long report of findings. I went into like, what are her favorite foods? So I picked in some favorite foods from another client and cut and pasted this in. What's the food you like? What's the replacement?
Well, I mean, she should get, you know what she could do? How old are her kids?
They're 12 and 14.
Well, what she could do is, there's the Nourishing Traditions book for kids or something. Is she homeschooling? No.
I don't know. We're
She
kind of
could do She could get the Nourishing Traditions book for kids, or whatever it's called, something kids, Nourishing Traditions, and she can do the Western A Price diet with her kids, and do it over the weekends with her kids. That way they learn to eat properly and prepare foods properly, and she tosses out all the vegetable oils and makes bone broth and whatnot.
She's pretty far along. She's going to need some support, and I'm hoping the husband comes on board. But you're right, Isabel. It's just a matter of getting people out of this overwhelm. And so, in terms of nutrition assessment, which we're kind of focusing with, we're going to end with this last slide. Here was a blog I wrote. I think that I wrote this blog literally 15 years ago, and I've been updating it. And so this talks about, the consequences of our desires. So this is a good example of, if you don't know and understand your desires, are you going to be getting the nutrients you need? Probably not, because you're eating in excessive waste products and not enough actual nutritional building blocks. And then you end up dealing with the waste products, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is the consequences of your desires of mouth entertainment. See, mind over matter.
I like that you started off with a Bernard Jensen quote.
Yes, this Jensen quote is, I feel that people are not regarding poor health as seriously as they should. They place their health problems secondary to all their other problems, financial, domestic, real, and invented. Without health, there is little that one can truly enjoy.
Mhm.
I've lived by that for 25 years since I read that. I'm like, he's spot on.
Mhm.
If I don't have my health, what the fuck's the point?
Mhm.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
So how to undercut desire. I have a little to do here. How to undercut desire. Their emotional states symbolically associated with organ and bodily systems. Their elemental energies and organ. Desire stems from needs, nourishment, touch, housing, shelter, and from wants. It is the area of wants that needs to be examined if we are suffering symptoms, especially conflicting wants. And then I have an example here of how I undercut desire through the conflicting desires of surfing and spirituality. They don't go together. It tore me apart for decades. Surfing isn't spiritual. It should be, but it's not. It's very competitive. It's very localized. A lot of people yelling at each other. It's gotten a lot better in the last 20 years of my life. But that's where I talk about, if you have conflicting wants, like I want to stay up late eating and drinking all night, but you want to get up in the morning and work also, you're fucked.
Mhm.
So it's really just seeing through those stories our mind says, getting back to like, where's my clarity? Where's my discernment?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And that newsletter